everybody, and welcome to Anime Paint Night. So, this month we have a main character from an anime that's pretty popular. Her name is Frieren, and it's from Frieren Journey's End, I believe. So there we have our lineup for Frieren. Yes, I hope I'm saying her name right. Just look that up. But yes, we have our line art, then we have our reference sheet right here, so you can know what colors that we're going to be using. In addition, in the kit, you should also have your watercolor paints if you requested it, and it should have a paintbrush inside. It'll look a lot cleaner than that. And make sure you have a cup of water for the watercolors, some paper towel as well, and we'll go ahead and get started. Alright, so as always, as we start, we're going to go ahead and do our skin tone first. So I'm going to go for like the white eggshell cream part over here. And I'm going to take some water and I'm going to start lightly dabbing it with some color, like so, right here. Keeping it nice and light, because I think Frieren is pretty fair to say. Frieren's pretty pale and such. Frieren is I believe, an elf and such like that. She lives a long time, even though she looks like really youthful and such. Frieren is like, I think close to 1,000 years old, or over 1,000 years old. So, still, the race that she is, she's pretty pale. So we're just going to use just a little bit of it. It kind of looks like I'm not even like adding much to it. But if you look closely, you will see some pigment and stuff. And the pigment will pop up more, especially when we start doing the shading as well. Take your time with this, and we'll go ahead and pick up at our next portion. Alright, now after we've done the skin tone, we'll start moving on to our different segment. We're going to go for the blue, and we are actually going to work on, we're going to go for the blue, and we're also going to go for a little bit of the black as well, a little bit of the purple. We're just going to combine and blend, and we're looking for a right color for like the stripes of her, like her undershirt and such, just to make sure that it's accurate. So excuse all the blending that I did to try to get it. I was just like, blue, purple, black. You don't have to worry about it as much as I did, but I just wanted to make sure it's accurate. So I combined a pretty good amount of blue, small amounts of purple, and an even smaller amount of black. Get the color that I kind of liked, to make sure that it stays kind of close to the reference sheet that we have. In addition to what we've got here, we're also going to go for the belt as well, because the belt is also the same color and such. So we'll go ahead, add a little bit more of those same pigments, because at this point you might be running out a little bit of the color. So we're gonna make a little bit more and such. Again, we use that black, we use that purple, we use that blue, combining it together, getting a little bit of blue to finish it out, and then we'll go ahead and go right to the belt. We'll go ahead and paint as such. I like Frieren's color scheme. I like how it's like primarily like pretty like clear and white and stuff, but I like the gold and yellow accents, and I think the blue works very well, because like blue and yellow, they're still complementary colors. I think she has like a little bit of red in her design, very small bits of red, so it's kind of sticking with primary colors. There's definitely red in her staff, so yeah, red. So yeah, her kind of whole color scheme here is based off of complementary colors. And these stripes here, even though they're like in the picture might look a little bit gray and stuff, there's still some blue. So after we get done with that, don't forget the collar right over there with her turtleneck is also that same color. So we'll move on to the next portion now. The next portion that we're going to be doing right here, we're going to go for the lighter blue here. And we're going to aim for the eyes. So the eyes right over here, we're going to make sure are light and sky blue here. Crystal pools of blue. Let's start to work on a little bit of the detail now. So now, instead of focusing more on like her clothes and attire, we're gonna kind of focus on like the little baubles that are around it. So like the buttons that are on the cloak and such, we're gonna go for the red here. a little bit on the cape there. And since we already have the red, we might as well start working a little bit on the staff. Actually, right here, I'm like hesitating because I'm not really sure if I wanted to, but yes, we actually do decide to work on the staff. So we're going to take the red, we're going to start working on the little orb that's on the staff. Then we're going ahead and take a little bit more of the red, but this time we're going to blend it with a little bit of the black and a little bit of, I believe, the brown together. And then we're going to use that to color in the darker portion of the orb, like so. Then after that, we're going to start going for working on more of the staff as a whole. So we'll go ahead and seek out more of the red here. And we'll start painting the staff as a whole. So with the rod. Take your time. And again, as I always say, you don't necessarily have to follow the reference sheet. You can make the color scheme however you'd like and such. You can make your own like palette swap version of Frieren. But for when we do the recordings, I always like to try to stick with it as much as possible as like a personal challenge for myself to see how we can use the colors on the palette to get closer to what we see on the reference sheet. So for the upper part of the staff, we used a little bit of yellow and we used a little bit of brown. We combine that together and we'll go ahead and follow the whole moon arc of the staff here. Take your time. And enjoy the process. All the way through. Just a few more strokes and then you've got the staff done. Alright, and now that we have the staff done, just want to make sure we got some good details. Make sure that all the paint is smooth. We'll move on to our next portion. Alrighty, we're almost done. So now, one of the things that we've saved, so we're not actually working on like the main color of the cloak, because the main color of the cloak is white, but the accent and trim, we have yellow. So what we're going to take the yellow and we're going to combine it with a little bit of the cream. And then we're going to, nice and slow, following the lines and everything, add that yellow right there. This part of our design, I think, really makes it, because it's, in my opinion, I think it kind of pops out her eyes a little bit more and stuff, especially since yellow and blue being complementary colors. The fact that the majority of the cloak is white, it does make it more clear as to what the attire is doing, making it flow, but also having the yellow giving your eyes something to track during the animation and such. It's really nice. Yellow is really good and clean. So I hope you enjoyed this part, as I have as well. We're working on the left side now. Feel free to be generous with the yellow and the cream. The reason why I didn't want it to be strictly yellow, like just straight yellow, is because it's a little bit too bright, a little bit too strong. Having it mixed with the cream makes the yellow a little bit more soft, which makes it a little bit closer to what we see in the reference sheet, of course. Make sure that we get the shoulder area of her little cloak here. Cool. Get the right side now. Taking it nice and easy, taking your time. And we'll take a little bit of that excess and we'll come towards the sleeve, or the edge of the sleeve rather. Then we'll take care of the opposite side as well. You see, now right here is a very good depiction of how the staff works really, really well with the yellow. So the staff has another complementary color, the red. Having the red against the yellow, against like the subtle bits of like faded blue and stuff, it really shows how the warm colors really work nicely with cooler colors. And the fact that yellow, even though it's like a very bright color, it's like just not as deeply profound as like the red and stuff. Our red, it's not like glaringly bright except like the orb, right? The staff itself is like a more softer red, so it works even better. Because Frieren, like, for the fact that like she's like thousands of years old and stuff, she has, despite like, you know, an appearance of youth, she does look a little bit aged and stuff. She's tired, and her color scheme kind of like suggests that as well. I think it works very well. Right now we're doing the shading of where the sleeves were, so we're adding a little bit of the yellow, but now we're also including a small bit of black, so as a shading. And after that shading, it's time for the last part, as always, for our anime paint nights. It's the hair. So Frieren's hair is not strictly white. It has a little bit of lavender in it as well. So we're going to go for the cream, and we're going to go for the purple, and we're going to keep, like, constantly go back and forth, trying to make sure that it's not very profoundly purple. We want it primarily like on the lighter side, which is why we're using so much of the cream. So that's why you see me going back and forth to the water, to the cream, then to the water, to the purple and stuff, and then going right back to the cream. Then we're going to get a very light color. You can even barely see the purple, but as you add more of the pigment for saturation, you start seeing the purple just faintly pop out. And that's exactly what we want. Because Frieren's hair, again, not straight white, we definitely see a little bit of the color. The color really helps, like, stand out from the cloak and everything, because we don't want the hair to be the same color as the cloak. You can see the purple there really good there. We don't want the hair to stand too close to the cloak, because then it'd be too similar in color and stuff. We don't want it to be overbearing with how much like Snow White is present there, right? We want a little bit more of the purple. So take your time with it. Again, you don't necessarily have to do this. If you want more purple, that's totally fine. You can make it more distinct, but definitely if you want it to be closer to the reference sheet, definitely keep on the lighter side when it comes to the purple. Use that cream. It's totally okay. And I like Frieren's like hairstyle, because even though it's like the hair strands look thin and stuff like that, the way that they have like depicted it, at least through drawing and stuff, they seem more puffy, more full and such. So after we're done with the hair, now we're just going to go back to the other portions of her outfit and the picture. We're going to add some subtle details like shading and stuff, right? So we're going to go for the hand and the skin tone, right? We're going to go for a little bit more of the brown. So we're going to add that shading right underneath the chin, the shading right, like she's got long ears and stuff. So putting a little bit of the shading in the ear, putting a little bit of the shading in the hand. But remember, Frieren is still pale and stuff, right? So we don't want too much saturation, right? We don't want it to go too far off from the reference sheet. So that's why we're adding just faint amounts of shading. Just faint amounts of shading. So we're going to use a lot of water with this portion. Alright. Then, after that, we're going to go for... After we've done the skin tone, we're going to start making a little bit of a darker shader here. We're moving on with the cream, the purple, but also a little bit of the black. Shading in a little bit. And we're going to add a little bit of shading to the cloak itself. Now the cloak, even though the cloak is white, we don't necessarily want to have the shading be black. That would suggest that, well, I mean, you can. It would just make sure having a darker shading color kind of makes it seem like, oh, okay, so like, it's a very bright sun, it's a very, distinct portion that's being blocked out from the sun, so it's like really profound that there's shading. But we like to do a little bit of a lighter one, so that's why we added a little bit more water when we do the shading there. Even for the hair right here, we have a little bit more pigment in the purple, but we're still using a good deal of water to make sure that the shading isn't like overbearing and such. We want to make sure that there's a blend. I want to make sure that there's a gradient. So be generous with your water, but also if you want to make it more distinct, use a little bit more pigment. It's totally fine. Just take your time with it and enjoy the process. Just enjoy the process. Very good. Adding that shading to the portions of her hair that are like behind her. Adding the portions of shading for the areas that the sun might not necessarily be hitting. If you know where your light source is coming from. You don't have to, that's totally fine. So one of the things I noticed near the end of this, I was just like, yeah, it looks kind of good. I look at the reference sheet and I'm like, oh, I kind of forgot to draw like the bandage on her staff. And so I was like, well, I can probably do that. So I took the red and I started like painting what would be like the bandage and stuff. I was just like, yeah, that looks pretty good. And so I decided to do that, and you could feel free to do that as well. You definitely don't have to, because the picture looks pretty solid without it. But later on, I was like, oh, doesn't she also have, like, earrings as well? I was like, maybe I should add that with the red as well. Promise you, probably don't do this, because what happens when we just press it down, it, like, bleeds all the way through. It wasn't dry yet in the hair, so it's like, the idea of the earrings are there, but it's like far too wet for it to actually be a precise drawing of the earrings. So I was like, oh no, I messed it up a little bit, and I like try to like add a little bit more of where it's like, oh yeah, we have to make sure that there's like a stub for the earring. I'm like, oh no, and so I felt like I messed up. But either way, just roll with the mistakes and roll with whatever you decide. And that is the end of our anime paint night. So we will see you next month, and thank you for enjoying, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.